I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt that if you were 30 IQ points dumber, you would have manifested what you want by now. No, seriously, like if you really sat down and thought about what manifestation is, it's really not that complicated. The difference between the version of you right now that is frustrated with reality and the higher version of you that has complete control over it is paper thin. But you keep sabotaging your progress, overthinking everything, and getting way less than you deserve. Meanwhile, you see other people who are clearly less intelligent than you, less talented, and honestly aren't even good people, yet somehow they're living the manifestations you're desperately trying to call in. And truth be told, it's not even your fault. There is so much information out there that it's very easy to fall for the trap of analysis paralysis. You have hermetic teachings, esoteric wisdom, psychology, law of attraction techniques, religions, ancient spiritual teachings, new age spiritual teachings, quantum physics, secret societies keeping deep knowledge locked away. The list is very long, and there's honestly a lot. But let me ask you this. Do you think those people, the ones effortlessly living the life you want, are reading the books, watching the videos, and practicing the techniques? No, of course not. They're not doing any of that. Because the truth is, you need to be dumb as fuck to manifest. And this is going to be the last manifestation video you ever need to watch again. Now, this video might not be the smartest business move for me, because as you know, conscious entrepreneurs hire me specifically to help them master this deeper knowledge and integrate it into their business so they can eradicate their revenue blocks once and for all. And if you genuinely need that support to get to your next level, then perfect. I'm the man that can take you there. You can apply to work with me directly using the link in the description. But I felt deeply called to create this video because there's a very specific pattern I've seen in so many clients throughout the years, a pattern that stops them from manifesting the reality that matches their highest desires. So I have a story for you. Many years ago, believe it or not, I was the lead assistant for one of the biggest dating coaches in the world. I traveled all over the US and Europe helping men transform their dating lives and attract better relationships. And the majority of the guys we worked with were actually solid men. They had good careers, they worked out, they dressed very well, they checked off many of the boxes women are looking for in a partner. So why did they struggle so hard to attract the kind of woman they were actually excited about? It's simple. They wouldn't shut the fuck up. Excuse my French here, but the ladies watching this know exactly what I mean. Because these men aren't accustomed to being around a pretty girl that actually likes them, they start using dumb lines and trying too hard to impress the girl, and you can see the exact moment on her face when the guy says too much and the girl gets the ick. It feels fake and unnatural, and even comes off as needy and uncalibrated. Women can feel that energy from a mile away, and it's absolutely repulsive. When if the guys just would have been themselves and normal, the girl would have been delighted to get to know them better. They talk themselves out of the very interaction that could have led to their future wife, because they couldn't relax and simply allow the moment to unfold organically. Now, extrapolate this story and apply it to your manifestations. If you've been trying to create your highest reality for some time and it's not happening, even though you've read the books, applied the techniques, and done the inner work, I can tell you without a doubt in my mind that you're essentially doing the same thing as the clients I mentioned in the story. Unfortunately, you're the desperate, needy man, and your desired reality is the girl getting the ick and losing interest in you. Here's the thing though, you're closer to breaking through than you realize. But you keep fumbling the bag because your mind won't stop trying to force it. And this is all happening because you're too smart for your own good. Let me explain. Intelligence is a double-edged sword. It can be your greatest advantage, but can also be a curse depending upon how your mental bandwidth is used. And if you're struggling to find that breakthrough, it's likely that your intelligence is holding you back, and you're drastically overcomplicating how you approach your reality. That is why I say if you were 30 IQ points dumber, you wouldn't even be watching this video because you wouldn't be sabotaging your manifestations. But you're here now, so let's disentangle the web of confusion surrounding your reality and get you to where you need to go. If you've ever done any kind of sales before, you've heard the acronym KISS. It stands for Keep It Stupid Simple, and the same applies here. You must dumb down everything you think you know about manifestations and return to the fundamentals of what actually gets results. Because as deep as the rabbit hole goes, the simplest truths are often the most powerful. Like Da Vinci said, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. So in the spirit of simplicity, less is always more. What do I mean by that? I mean that the less you try to manifest your desires, the faster they show up. The less you make your desires a big deal, the more they naturally enter your field. Here's the truth about why reality works this way. As a conscious being, you are not separate from God. You are God experiencing itself. You have the power of creation running through your entire being, and when you align with that infinite frequency, miracles are normal. With a single thought, your manifestation is already done. The moment you command it into existence, the universe begins reorganizing itself around that intention. All that's required from you is to live intentionally, stay open to how it appears, and allow divine timing to unfold. That's it. Be still, let it come. But what happens? You wake up the next day, and you don't see it in your physical reality yet. You trick yourself into believing you've done something wrong, or that you must not be powerful enough to deserve the things you desire, and that if you just affirmed harder, visualized more, and asked God more intensely, that you would have your prayers answered. So you double down on your efforts from a place of anxiety. Because of this inner tension, you start interpreting every bit of resistance as proof that you're not worthy. Your mental bandwidth gets consumed with doubt and impatience, and before you know it, you find yourself asking, why me? Why is this happening to me? But let me offer you a shift in perspective, especially in those moments when you feel like nothing is going your way, and you think asking more intensely will make things happen faster. Do you honestly think that God didn't hear you the first time? Do you really think the divine force that created the entire universe, that holds the fabrics of this matrix together, the omnipotent, the omniscient creator of all that you know, needs you to remind it what you want every day? No, absolutely not. Conscious creators that remember their power ask once, and then they allow God and reality to do the rest. So then, why is it so easy for us to forget that? Because the deeper work you do on yourself to align with your highest manifestations goes undetected in the physical plane for some time before you see evidence that any significant change has occurred. Your universe needs time to reorganize itself around your intention. But because you don't see it yet, you lose trust in yourself or in God, and then your mind invents all kinds of reasons for why it's not working. Then your words, emotions, and actions start reinforcing the exact opposite of what you intended. What should have felt like a fun, lighthearted experiment turns into a heavy existential crisis of metaphysical proportions. You talk yourself out of your highest possibility, and the universe gets the ick from your uncertainty. You start questioning the whole process, begging God to show you a sign, to give you some kind of confirmation that it's on the way, assuming that you're lost and that the path is unclear. And God, as a faithful mirror, simply reflects to you and says, if you think we're lost, then we're lost. The deeper truth here is that your intelligence is being used against you. Your overpowered mind is wired to look for reasons why things aren't working out and is creating the manifestation of your worst expectation. Unintelligent people don't have that problem. They're just vibing. They're living life completely unbothered by any kind of resistance. They live in their own world, and that is gold to the universal flow of energy. That's what I mean by being dumb with manifestation. I don't mean to be reckless or arrogant or take unnecessary risks. I mean that you let go completely and surrender your manifestations to the universe and just live your life. And here's the paradox. Your intelligence is not the enemy. It just needs to be pointed in the right direction. And there is a way that you can quiet the inner critic of the mind so that you can allow yourself to flow with reality. This higher level perspective is one that only intelligent people can understand and leverage so that they channel their excess mental bandwidth in a way that positively supports the realization of their goals. With this one shift, instead of amplifying disconnection from your power, your intellect will amplify your magnetism. The overarching problem that underlies why your intelligence is being used against you has nothing to do with how smart you are and everything to do with how you were taught to think. Your IQ, which IQ means intellectual quotient, is simply a measure of how quickly you recognize patterns and solve problems. The higher your IQ, the better processing power your brain has. And in the traditional academic settings we all grew up in, that is obviously a massive advantage. Most of us spent over 2 decades in school where our confidence, our opportunities, and our perceived future success were built around how well we performed on exams in subjects like mathematics, science, literature, social studies, etc. standardized testing became the judge of our worth. And because almost all of the testing revolved around multiple choice formats, our minds were trained on the basis that there is one right answer and everything else is wrong. This is the foundation of convergent thinking, where correct equals rewarded and incorrect equals punished. Now, the moment you step into the real world and begin creating your own life, that rigid way of thinking becomes a liability. Reality is not a multiple choice test, and you are not being graded every week. And success in this dimension is not earned through cautious behavior or staying inside the lines someone else drew for you. Logic is secondary to frequency. Your energy matters more than your accuracy. And because you were conditioned to avoid mistakes, you develop the habit of overanalyzing everything you do, terrified that one wrong move will lead to some invisible penalty. That mindset is poison to your manifestations, because when you're hypercritical of every step you take, you suffocate the creative spontaneity required for your genius to activate. You start treating manifestation like a test you keep failing, instead of a sacred dance with the universe. But here's the truth. Real-world success is rooted in divergent thinking. Divergent thinking means there are endless answers and paths where your manifestations can unfold. Some options might be more efficient than others, some might be more aligned, but there are no wrong answers when you're pursuing the expansion of your soul's desires. That is how reality actually works. Infinite possibility, infinite creative potential, infinite routes towards the same goal. And you, as a conscious soul, are meant to follow your intuitive knowing to select the possibilities that feel most aligned for you. There is no blueprint for this, and there is certainly no teacher marking your progress with a report card. Now, convergent thinking does have its place in the world. I don't want the person designing the airplane I'm flying on to be relying purely on intuition. I don't want the engineer building my bridge to say, I'm just gonna feel this one out and align my chakras, and hopefully my crystal meditation ceremony holds the bridge together. But when it comes to your personal destiny, your business, your creativity, your wealth, your art, your influence, etc., the universe rewards those who are willing to think divergently about how their genius expresses itself in the world. Because some of your most brilliant manifestations are going to come from the ideas that make the least logical sense, the spontaneous opportunities that nobody else sees, the moments of inspiration that appear out of nowhere, the exact thing you almost talk yourself out of until it works so beautifully that you can't even imagine your life without it. But if you insist on filtering every intuitive impulse through your need to be correct or your fear of being wrong, then your own intelligence continues to sabotage you. And it's not because you lack capability, it's because you're applying classroom thinking to quantum creation. And that's why I always say that entrepreneurship is applied spirituality. And the conscious entrepreneurs I work with, once this clicks for them, exceptional results become as predictable as the spring and summer following the fall and winter. Right now, you're being called to honor your divergence, to drop this exhausting need to overthink every step, to embrace the uncertainty that comes with greatness, to recognize that foolishness is often the doorway to genius, because in order to be a genius, you have to risk being considered a fool first. When you allow yourself to be messy and explore boldly, and trust the unknown, you are communicating to the universe that you are willing to be seen in your ascension, and the universe loves a soul who is unapologetically alive. That is when reality rushes in to meet you halfway. That is when the support arrives, when what you desire becomes a natural byproduct of who you are being, not something you need to force your way into having. And this is what unintelligent people do so well, even if it's unconsciously applied. They do not question themselves into paralysis. They do not interrupt the flow of their life with constant doubt. They are simply out of their own way, and reality responds generously to that inner freedom. And here's what gives you the greatest leverage on your path. You can embody that same flow without abandoning your brilliance. You can use your intelligence as a force of creation, rather than a weapon of self-destruction, by channeling your processing power into imagination instead of fear. High IQ individuals who learn to think divergently are the future leaders of this world, because they can see possibilities that others never even notice. And that, my friend, is your advantage. One you may not fully recognize yet, but the moment you do, reality will never look the same again. Ultimately, your manifestations don't need to be forced into existence. You don't need to visualize 24/7, repeat affirmations like a broken record, or beg God every morning like the universe forgot what you wanted overnight. If those practices feel good, amazing, keep doing them. But let's be real, the rituals are not what manifests your desires. They are merely reminders of a truth that is already alive within you. The real magnetism comes from the energy you hold when you stop micromanaging your reality and allow life to deliver what you've already chosen. You don't need to spiral into panic every time something seems inconvenient or unexpected. You don't need to interpret temporary chaos as proof of long-term failure. You don't need to obsess over whether you're aligned enough or doing it right. Just relax. Trust that everything is already being orchestrated on your behalf. Ride the wave that's currently beneath your feet instead of frantically splashing your hands in the water of the ocean of uncertainty. When you genuinely let go of the outcome, when you stop grading every step like it's a standardized test, the magic activates. The universe becomes shockingly clear. You start seeing evidence everywhere that reality is bending in your favor. You finally notice the subtle guidance, the synchronistic little nudges that have been there all along. Because manifestation is not about getting something or arriving somewhere. It's about aligning so precisely with the version of you that already has what you desire, to the degree that you no longer need to see them in your physical reality in order to feel validated in who you are. You become so secure in what's coming that you don't flinch at what currently is. That level of trust is what unconscious people already have. They don't question their desires or obsess over timing. They don't argue with the universe. They just live, dumb and blissful, and somehow life keeps working out for them. So if you want to manifest faster, take a page out of their playbook. Stop overthinking. Stop trying so hard. Stop treating your desires like fragile miracles that could disappear if you blink for too long. Be dumb with your manifestations. Be so simple in your belief that there is no room for doubt. Be so certain in your destiny that confusion becomes irrelevant. Be so aligned with who you really are that the universe doesn't have to guess what to give you. Because that's the ultimate paradox of spirituality. To win the game is to leave it. The less you think, the more you become. The less you analyze, the more you allow. The less you try to be smart about manifestation, the more reality bends to your frequency. You don't have to earn your manifestations. You just have to stop rejecting them with your intelligence. Because being a reality-bending entity doesn't mean you start levitating off the ground because you're so high frequency. It means you become so grounded in your humanity that the paper-thin layer between God and man becomes invisible. So put down the books, turn off the videos, and just live your life. Breathe. Do what feels good. Answer the call to adventure. Learn to laugh at yourself and the world, because it really is an absurd dimension. This entire human experience is a game, and you win the moment you stop taking the rules so seriously. Ask once, trust always, let go completely. Embody this, and the mirror of reality will reflect your divine clarity and say, "Oh, this one gets it." And thus, a master is born.